morning. I'm Guy Costin with the Stardust Foundation, and I am a member of the Wednesday morning Roundtable committee, and I do the straw to moderate the debate. But it's not really a debate. It's a discussion among some of the candidates who are running for City Council. About a month, or less than a month from now, they'll be on the ballot to have you vote for them if you're in the city of Auburn. And we're delighted to have them here. A couple of housekeeping rules beforehand. This is not a debate. It is to have them make an opening statement from 3 to 4 minutes. We'll do Q&A. Jesse has put cards around, so we'll pass them forward. We'll go through them. Got some cards by, or some questions by email, and then we have some from today, and we'll try to get through as many of them as possible. We've told the candidates they have 2 minutes for each question, but they don't have to always use all 2 minutes, and we'll just switch around. A couple of other things real quickly. We've asked them to be seated because the Citizen is, as usual, filming this, so they'll have it on Auburn Pub, usually by the end of the day, and it looks like Mr. Mason is doing a story on this as well. I'm assuming that's there. 2 other quick items. First, I'd like to welcome 2 people to our community. Suzanne Sinclair, who is our new county administrator, who's sitting next to another administrator in the sense of Constance Evelyn. Please stand. She just joined the She thought she was the newest person in the room, but she got beat by somebody who's been here less than 10 days, and that's Rob Forsey, our new publisher of the Citizen. So, some other announcements at the end, but we'll start. Our candidates are from your left to right, Chris DeAngelis, who is the former mayor of the city of Auburn, who served on both the county legislature and the city council. Terry Cuddy, who is a teacher with the BOCES system, has been very active for clearly 20 years, worked originally on the Smith Corona issue of dumping into Moravia and the Jewish treatment plant, and Deb McCormick, who's been very active in the community, both as the city clerk, but also before that with Cuba Savings Bank. How many of us met her as we tried to open up accounts many years ago. So, they have all, I have long biographies, you don't want to hear from me. So, we'll start with Mr. DeAngelis for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Guy, and thank you, everyone. Good morning. And, as Guy touched on, I have served in public office in the past. I served as a county legislator, I've served as a city councilor, and as mayor of the city of Auburn. I left the mayor's office in December of 1999. In recent years, I've been back at City Hall as the chairman of the Civil Service Commission. In between, I've been working in various capacities with the state. I worked as a program administrator with the state administration of the Community Development Block Grant Program, which put me in a position to travel to many different communities as a program administrator and to help communities both identify their issues, put successful applications together, get funded, and help them implement their programs. Their programs, anyone who's familiar with the block grant program, could be housing type programs, housing rehab, home ownership, water programs, sewer programs, projects, and economic development projects. There's various others as well. Anyway, in recent years, we've seen some decisions that have been made by the city council that have directly impacted our financial position. Not all of our financial problem is as a result of the downturn of the economy, the national economy, and the fallout. Some of the decisions that have been made locally have negatively impacted our situation. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned when the manager and some of the councilors just throw out various terms that they've been using, and then talk about the very serious possibility that we might end up in bankruptcy within a few years. So I've decided to run. I think that time is not on our side. We're in the city. We need to start making some smart decisions so that we can turn that situation around.
Thank you. Mr. Cuddy.
Thank you, Guy, and thank you members of the Wednesday morning roundtable for having us here. I'm running for city council for several reasons. Some are personal, some are more about changing policy, changing tone in Auburn. First, I'm a father of a 3-year-old son, John. I am the husband of the elementary school librarian, Beth Beer-Cuddy. I'm a vocational teacher at Onondaga BOCES. And that is one of the most defining elements of my partly because as a teacher, especially in a vocational setting, I learned not only to teach students how to be graphic designers, videographers, web designers, animators. I see how those skills can benefit the local community. Part of the BOCES model is that you work with local business, local industry. We've done work for non-for-profits. We've done work for governments. So there is, the model of BOCES is a model of cooperation. And in fact, cooperation or cooperative is part of what BOCES, in BOCES' name. So I want to bring my experience of working between government agencies, business, to city council. I think it's much needed. And I see this is where I really feel compelled to run for city council, because I do see that the current council seems to be its own worst enemy, whether they mean to be so or not. When I go to city council, I'm frankly saddened by the lack of discourse, and I see a deal that was made 6 years ago that has been mentioned in the media and has been mentioned obviously by the candidates. The failed energy contract that is draining the city to $1 million a year. And that really has to be dealt with in an honest way. The council can't hide about that anymore, because it's going to come up in every budget if we don't deal with it in a realistic way. And to me, to face that head on is a real tough decision. So that's been looming over us the last 3 years. I see a council that is hostile to itself. I see a council that is hostile to the employees of the city. I see a council that is hostile to the school district. I see a council that has difficulties working with neighboring towns and the county. Now, as I said, I don't know if it's their intention or not, but as an Auburn City councilor, I will try to mend some of the damaged relationships between these various organizations and try to work cooperatively with them. I just want Auburn to work again. I plan on doing this by making Auburn fiscally sound and immediately addressing the failed energy contract that is draining the city. One of the things that I think has been really lacking is not so much fiscal oversight. I think what's lacking is fiscal knowledge. Like, where is the city fiscally? And partly we don't really know, is because we do not have somebody at the head of our finances that is really giving accurate information to the city council and the city manager. As you know, we've had trouble maintaining a comptroller, and I know that that the city is restructuring and looking for financial officer / comptroller. And I think that what they need to do is we need to make sure that when we look for that position, that we're asking for somebody with the competence needed to help the city know where we are fiscally. Once we get our fiscal house in order, the council needs to display sound judgment to invest in our infrastructure and to follow through on the current plans that have been put into place that show progress, like this building here, like what's going on downtown, and the potential progress in our industrial park. So then Auburn will be a destination to attract young people and high-tech businesses. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Craig. Ms. McCormick?
Thank you for having us today. I'm the one that doesn't talk loud enough, so if you can't hear me, I'm going to start a little personal. A lot of people don't know me. Cubic Bank is going way back.
Sorry. I'm not even tell you how old I was.
Prior to Cubic Bank, I did grow up in Auburn. I left for a few years because I thought this was the worst place in the world, you know. Get me out of here, and I came back really fast. Auburn is not the worst place in the world, and it's getting better all the time. I grew up here. I went to school here. My parents, my dad was a firefighter. Oops. My grandfather was a firefighter. He retired after 50 years. That's how much he loved it. And as I recall, firefighters at that time, we lived on Holly Street. My dad had 2 jobs, so I don't know. I suppose they had the same issues back then, but I do have a warm spot in my heart for firefighters. But I am reasonable financially too. But I hate to see people put down for the jobs that they do and the love of those jobs. So life went on, and I enjoyed life in Auburn when it was the 60s and 70s. I married. My husband, Mike, is a retired Teamster from Stockton Davis. He worked for a local company here, and he also is retired. I have a daughter, Abby, who is engaged to be married. Her and her boyfriend live in Louisiana, and he works for Welch Allen, which, thank you, Welch Allen. And she works for a hospital there as a social worker. So that's my little personal story. As far as family, I didn't just appear at City Hall 13 years ago. I think I've managed to get there through, I think it was called Leadership Cuba back in 1989. I was among them. I was in the first class. I was the first class. Right, Guy?
It was the best class.
It was. And it was a hard, everybody from that class really turned out pretty darn good. Then after that, I was involved in Big Brothers Big Sisters, Cubic Counseling. I was on the boards in Big Brothers Big Sisters. It seems like a lot more things that are not coming to me. I volunteered for hospice, a lot of things like that. And I've been involved in local politics in the Democratic Party. And I'm usually the person that stuffs the envelopes and makes the phone calls. But I've worked at City Hall for 13 years, which has been an honor and a privilege. I just can't even tell you how much I love my work. I love going to work. I love walking up the steps of City Hall. It's an honor. And if I am successful with the election, I'd have to quit my job as city clerk, which I will be sad about, but I'm looking forward to the challenge. Because what I've seen over the last 13 years, I've seen 650 city council meetings, overseen by 3 mayors, and about 9 city councilors. So I've seen a little bit of everything. I've seen the good, I've seen the not so good. But in the last few years, it's just gotten to a point where I've known about this failed cogen for at least 8 years. I've watched it bubble up and spill over. It's a bad financial decision that the council made, and it's about $800,000 a year. That's one of the reasons it's never been talked about. It's not. They're taking it out on the city employees, more or less. They're saying, "Oh, we're out of money. Oh, we're going to have to cut services," which actually takes it out on city residents. So your services are cut because this council made really poor decisions, didn't plan ahead, didn't work well with others, as they say on your report card. Didn't play nice. They used bullying and hostile language and doomsday predictions. And after being city clerk for 13 years, I've got a really good perspective of the way things work behind the door of City Hall. I know that in spite of what our council is doing, there are people in the community that have vision. They've invested in the community, and they're pushing forward. They're making things happen in spite of City Hall. I think that if City Hall got behind it, it'd be a miracle. Things could happen and how fast they could happen. And again, I'm not the type of person to put myself out here to do this, but it really means that much to me that I think the city's at a turning point, and we've got to keep pushing with the people in the community, the leaders, the investors, and push ourselves forward, not pull backwards or push backwards. And that is really the reason I want to change the tone, and I want to start working together with the people in the community that want to move the city of Auburn forward. That's my spiel.
Thank you. You know, I have lots of notes up here. I should say both Councilor Smith and Councilor Graney either could not or declined our invitation to attend, so everyone was invited. I do want to make that clear. Some of you have used the word, not that you are using the word, but others are using the word bankruptcy, financial Armageddon, all of these items. So, summarizing 3 cards here is, what is the shape of the city? And frankly, could you give us 2 examples of either where you would either cut programs or raise fees? We'll start with Mr. DeAngelis, work our way down, and we'll rotate each question.
The shape of the city, if you're looking for a description that people will understand, I think the city's financial health is in critical condition. I think we need to do a number of things. I want to answer all your questions. Part of your question was about fees. The city council just went through a whole process, the last budget, and they increased just about every fee. So I can't tell you that I'm going to increase fees. I think that the city council, current city council, has done that already. I think what we really need to do is we need to get a handle on what our financial situation really is. There's been mention of the fact that we do not have a controller or chief financial officer at the city currently. So we do need someone competent who can pick up the ball and pull all those pieces together. One of the most important things for the council to have is good, accurate information so that we can make good, sound decisions. And the council, I think, in recent years, from my vantage point, they have not been provided with good, sound information. A lot of the decisions seem to, especially at budget time, seem to have been done at the last minute. There's been a lot of procrastination, and it's led to some of the decisions that they've made that have not, those decisions I don't think have been well thought out. So it's extremely important for us to have someone who serve in the capacity of chief financial officer, that person gives us good, accurate, sound information so that we can make decisions about what to do for this, as far as the city's finances. The big issue, one of the big issues that some would have you believe doesn't have an impact on our financial situation is the failed cogen plant. It's been a drain from the start. The numbers are different. This is a classic example of what I'm talking about. You can't even get a good, sound number from the city staff. What we do have is a report that Laura Pullman, the city controller, before she left the city's employ, provided, along with a resolution to transfer $2.5 million from the city's general fund to cover losses there. So we know based on her numbers that the losses are at a minimum for a little over $4 million to date. That something has to be done. That's a drain on the city's finances. It's, according to her number, a little over $4 million that's gone, unrecoverable, and it does have a direct impact on our financial situation. It's money we don't have in our general fund, in our cash on hand, because of the decision that was made. We have to address that situation and turn it around.
Thank you. Mr. Cunningham, the state of the city's finances, fees, taxes, and/or programs.
Well, I agree with Mr. DeAngelis as far as addressing the my understanding, the city manager said that we may be facing a $3.5 million deficit. And at least $1 million of that dollars is because of the failed CH Energy project. So we have to address that, and that's going to be very difficult to address in a meaningful way. Obviously, there were a lot of issues with the actual contract itself, which left the city vulnerable. There was no bond attached to it, there was no insurance attached to it. So there's a lot of things that I believe were not done in good faith. Should legal action be taken? Obviously, that's something that should be addressed. But again, we don't know what the legal fees may be. Is it worth bringing the Attorney General in on this issue? The most difficult thing is that it needs to be addressed. Whatever is chosen. I think the most difficult thing to really consider, but may be the one thing that may help us get out of this hole and stop us from having $3.5 million deficits year after year. And this is again amidst the cuts that have preceded this. Our current council admits that the Department of Public Works has been cut to the core. But why do we still have these large deficits? So we have to really face up to this failed energy contract. If we can work out a deal with Greenfield to buy it out so that we're not hemorrhaging this amount of money every year, I think that is the best option to help us with this financial difficulty. On that same note, I really think that we should really focus on what has succeeded in recent years. I know that a former employee of the city and her department were very pivotal in bringing a grant to Courier Plastics. Now that employee is not employed for the city anymore. I want to keep the employees that are actually working for the city, bringing money into the city, into local businesses, so that they can expand. We can't grow a city if we're cutting all the time. We need to be proactive. We need to be courting businesses, focusing on what is succeeding in Auburn, and making sure that the infrastructure is there for the current businesses to expand and to attract businesses because they see that Auburn is in working order, both financially and culturally.
Thank you, Mr. Cuddy. Mr. McCormick.
The financial status of the city is I agree with Chris and Terry. It's a fact. The failed cogen is a huge, probably 90% of it. But other parts of it include legal fees that we're spending that shouldn't need to be spent because we're fighting on contracts, union contracts. There's employee insurance costs have gone up thanks to injuries because we have too few employees to do too many things. And this is out in the field like Public Works and places like that. But it's the cogen is the huge drain on the city's budget. As for an example, I love crops. I've got, this year, on May 23rd, the City Council voted to transfer, what is that number? $2.5 million from the general fund, which is our money that pays for our services, into the power utility fund, because it has to be balanced. $2.5 million this past May to just patch the hole there. It's kind of like, an example would be like if you had a credit card and someone stole it, and they went out and charged $1 million on the credit card. And our incumbent counselors came to your house and they're going to help you out with this problem. So they started to turn off your lights, shut your doors, sell your furniture, get rid of your water. That's not going to help you. You've got to cut the credit card out. You've got to stop the bleeding. You've got to stop it. And that's what's not happening. For 8 years, this has been going on. And I've never heard it brought up as a problem. It's never been, this was voted on, and I don't recall a whole lot of discussion. I think that's the problem. It's not the city's employee benefits. It's not that we don't pay enough taxes. It's this big mistake. It's bad enough that it's a big mistake, but to not even talk about it. We've got to get that credit card, get rid of it. That's where I stand on the finances.
Here's a quick 1-minute question response. We'll start with Mr. Cuddy on this one. The current council seems to look at downtown parking as a revenue stream. What is your take on that? And if you have questions, send them forward.
I disagree with their approach or their actions in trying to lengthen the parking fees till 9 p.m. I mean, I've never been to a city Auburn size, or even larger, that charges for parking after 5 p.m. And so I disagree with that approach to bringing in revenue to the city. I mean, if we can encourage trying to expand more parking spaces so that we can accommodate the traffic that's coming downtown, that's a win-win situation. Obviously, space is an issue, finding the space, but one of the things that does concern me about how that issue was brought into voting is that there was very little public notice about the lengthening of the parking time, and it needed, once the community did get word of it within a week, there were a lot of people there expressing their vocalizing their opposition to lengthening it, and it stopped. They took that provision out of the resolution. But what if there was 1 or 2 people that did not know or hear that this was going to be in the resolution? This would have been passed without any real knowledge by the people of Auburn, and we really can't have that. And we can't blame the people, and we can't blame the newspaper for the city's failure to let people know what they're actually voting on, because this isn't the first issue that's been railroaded through in the dark of night. And I really think that the city needs to slow down and let people know what they're voting on and again, with due process. So I know that kind of went outside parking, but it does relate to parking in some degree.
Mr. McCormick, 1 minute on the issue of parking as revenue.
Parking is revenue. I heard somebody, again, these 13 years catch up with me. Parking comes up a lot. It's been up and down and over. I do think that the parking, they've tried to use parking to offset the cost of the parking meter readers. Well, we don't need readers, we don't need parking, I don't know. But the most recent debacle, and it just shows you how out of touch they are. Who in their right mind during this beautiful renaissance with the theater and everything going on would extend parking fees till 9 o'clock at night, especially when theater is the big draw, unless you just want to go to matinees, pretty much, cancel everything after 5. I just can't even imagine. Did they read it? Did they know what they were voting on? They're out of touch. I do think there's a place for parking, but it's got to be in a way that's not turning people away from Auburn. There's a big, huge parking garage that we could use. Originally, parking meters, I think, were meant to keep turnover, to make sure that people weren't staying there all day so that businesses could keep their customers, coming and going easily. But we don't have a lot of retail downtown anymore. Most of our businesses are dinner, dining, theater, things where you don't want to be checking your watch and wondering if it's time to go feed the meter. I think it really needs to be looked at in a different context from retail, shopping, and things like that. We have to look at it as the kind of business that we're doing now is entertainment and tourism. There's the museum. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that come into City Hall because they think the city clerk does everything. They have parking tickets. They're from Rochester. They're from here and there because they went to the museum and they had too much good time and they stayed too long. It's kind of sad to give a ticket to a tour especially when they say Michigan on the license plate. Common sense would help a lot. I think we really need to look at it in a different light than retail. And
Mr. DeAngelis on parking revenues.
Parking revenues goes beyond the issue of whether or not the parking enforcement should have been extended to the evening hours downtown. There's a significant revenue stream that comes into the city budget under the heading of parking. I think the issue that has gotten the most attention recently, obviously, was the discussion with regard to extending the enforcement in the evening hours downtown. I don't agree with doing that. I think that it's directly opposed to what's going on downtown and trying to bring people into the downtown area. One thing that you do notice when you drive through downtown is the activity that's going on. There are more people there, there are more vehicles there. We went for a long period of time when downtown was pretty much a ghost town. There wasn't a lot going on there. So I don't think we want to put in place policies that are going to stifle that at all. Parking exists for a couple of different reasons. One is to create turnover so that the businesses downtown, whether they're retail or not, that there are parking spaces throughout the day. So that's the main reason. And some people do look at the revenue aspect of it. As far as the issue of enforcing later in the evening, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I believe that's going to bring in that kind of money to offset the cost of actually doing the enforcement itself. And what we're getting outside of the revenue stream that would come in from writing tickets is you have activity downtown, you have business taking place, and I don't know if anyone has quantified the amount of sales tax that would come from that business, but that would be a positive impact in terms of a source of revenue downtown.
Thank you. I will go with a combination of questions for Ms. McCormick. This came up in a couple of questions that are here. It really deals with the issue of cooperation between not only the city and the county of Cuba, but also just community leaders as well. Is there a problem? And if so, how would you resolve it?
simply put, yes, there's a problem. I think there's a huge problem with communication between our city council and just about any other group, whether it's the downtown business, the school district, the towns, the county. Sometimes it's been with me at the meeting, taking the minutes, that I've observed I guess, hostility. It's last minute planning. They don't know what they're going to do, so at the moment they decide it, without consulting the other entity, whether it's the school district comes to mind because it's the most recent one. Let's cut the crossing guards and not sign the contract for the SROs. I looked like right in the middle of the meeting, and probably the people at the school district were watching that on TV and said, gee, they should call us first. And there's no cooperation between the council, and it's not going to help us go forward and do the things we need to do if we can't work as a group. And I know Councilor Smith started to sing Kumbaya last time I started talking about teamwork and working together, but so Kumbaya. I think we do need to work together. It might sound like a Girl Scout, but the Girl Scouts are all right. We need to not, I thought about email and texting the other day. I thought, we got to stop doing this. We need to sit down and look at each other and talk about what matters, whether you live on this side of Havens Street or Havens Ave or that side of Havens Ave. We all need the same thing. We want to be successful, whether it's Cuba County, Auburn, Aurelius, Senate. We all need the same thing, and I know that's really sounds like I've got my little rose-colored glasses on, but you gotta start somewhere, and it isn't gonna be by setting ultimatums out, you know, I'm not gonna do this if you don't do that, and then it's just not gonna work that way. I don't think I've ever gotten anywhere personally putting things together like that. I do think there's a communication problem, there's an attitude problem, and again, that's why I think I would be a good city councilor, because I definitely wouldn't put lines in the sand. I want to work with people to get things done.
Thank you. Mr. DeAngelis?
Yeah, I think that it's very important for all of us, not just the city, but everyone involved in government, school district, county. We all know that we're facing difficult financial times, coming from the federal government down to the state and here locally. That puts us in a position where we really do need to communicate, and we need to find ways to work together so that we can provide the services that are necessary to the people of this community. In doing our job, you know, the job really ultimately is, you have to listen, and you're faced with making decisions. Every time you have a city council meeting, you're voting on something, so it boils down to making decisions. And what you need is to have good, sound information. You need to have good communication. You need to work on reaching out to people, whether it's a town, whether it's a school district, and try to work together. So I'm all for doing that. Now, that doesn't mean that people have to, I think, abandon their principles. You can have your discussions, you can have your debates. That's what our form of government's all about. You're going to have people that have differing points of view and different life experiences. You have your debates, you put the information on the table, and then you try to make good, sound decisions based on the information that you have. That's what I think is lacking. One example of something in-house is the whole budget process. Everything was, the past few years, was piecemeal together. There were no budget meetings where the department heads came in and got to go over their budgets, explain what their various departments are doing, the services that they're performing, the revenues they're bringing in. There was none of that. And that's been going on for at least the past few years, I think longer than that. We really need to have a dialogue with people in-house, staff in-house, when it comes to budget and other matters. And it should be an open dialogue, a place where people feel comfortable coming and talking about the issues so that we can arrive at good decisions. Same thing is true for outside of City Hall. So there's a lot of room for improvement there.
Thank you. Mr. Cuddy, on this issue, is there a problem with connecting with outside governments and community leaders, and if so, how would you solve it?
Yes, I believe I touched upon this in my introduction. Yes, we have had definite breakdowns in communication with the school districts, with the neighboring towns regarding the water authority that was being considered. So basically, why I'm running is I believe running for council, it's a question of representation. And if the council is continuing to have situations where there's a breakdown in communication, that represents the people of Auburn. And, you know, I want to try to change that tone. City council sets policy, but they also set the tone. So what I want to do in my plan is to, number one, I want to advocate for Auburn. And that's my first priority. But I want to appeal to the fairness of the neighboring towns in the county. I mean, Auburn has sacrificed a lot over the years. And there needs to be a kind of acknowledgement. One example is in the 90s, we did a sewer upgrade that was mandated by the EPA and DEC, and we, Auburn, foot the bill for that, millions of dollars for that upgrade. And, we did that in good faith. We did that without any question. We said we will take care of it. But that is one of the things that needs to be brought back to the table. And it's a question of infrastructure that benefits both Auburn and the county and the neighboring towns. So we really just gotta appeal and inform the county and neighboring towns as to our history of serving the people of Auburn, but also the neighboring communities. And I think that, once you're given, once the information is there and present, that is irrefutable and isn't fuzzy and filled with conjecture, once that comes out, that's when real communication begins. And I think that we need to kind of remove the political baggage that has plagued this area for so long and reach towards a common goal, which is this community. So yes, there's definite breakdown in communication. I'm going to make it one of my priorities to try to mend the damaged relationships and appeal to common sense and having this area move forward. Because in a lot of cases, in a lot of cases in the neighboring towns, we're all Auburnians. I mean, they have the Auburn on their envelopes, and I want to appeal to that sense of community and make, again, invite them instead of cause divisions.
Try to get one more question before we finish up, because an hour does go quickly. So this is a combined question about economic development as well as the arts. Do you believe the city should support arts and culture as they used to? But just as importantly, is there a role for government to advance economic development beyond just items such as sewer, water, infrastructure? Last question first, Mr. DeAngelis will start.
Well, excuse me, I would answer that question this way. There is a lot going on in the community involving the arts, and that is good for the community. But we have to look at it as a whole. You can look at whether it's the double days, it's the arts, it's our schools, it's the hospital. Everything combined makes the community, and having the arts available in the community, having the kind of productions that are available here is definitely a positive thing for the community. In terms of economic development, all of these various things will add certain revenues to the city. I don't know if anyone really has quantified what they are. I don't know if there's a number, but it will bring in additional revenues to the community. I think what part of your question is with respect to the so-called pilots or the tax breaks and the various incentives that are provided. I think that that has been expanded beyond what it originally was intended for. That's why if you look at the state law, it's the industrial development laws of the state of New York that provide for those types of activities to take place. Should we expand that? I think generally we probably should not. And I'm saying that in the context of our current financial situation. Whatever is done has to be balanced against our ability to provide basic essential services. If we're making decisions on one end, and it ultimately ends up having the city council make decisions that has a negative impact on basic essential services, fire, police, water, sewer, then we really haven't done ourselves a lot of good. We need to manage these things in a way where we can advance, we can move forward, and not make decisions that are going to have us having a negative impact for a period of time, at least initially, on basic essential services, which really is ultimately the primary goal of government. That's the reason your city government exists. I think people really are concerned about getting those basic services, necessary services, and for us to do it in a cost-effective and efficient way. So the answer to that question is, yeah, we need to remain engaged. We need to try to bring new jobs into the community. But whatever we do, we don't want to make decisions that is going to lead to decisions where we're not able to deliver basic essential services to people. We need to manage it in a balanced way.
Mr. Cuddy, if you can keep it to 2 minutes or less, so we can get a closing statement.
Sure. The American for the Arts did a study in Auburn, presented to Auburn the potential if the musical theater festival, thank you, musical theater festival, where it was at the point they did the study and the projected income the projected income if this comes to fruition. And I see the place where the Schwartz Performing Arts Center could be built and not being built. So those projections of increased income, it was projected over $1 million each year as the theater festival grew. And so I do believe that, and I used this term earlier, Auburn needs a jump start. And part of that jump start is working with, in all essence, local developers. This isn't a company from Poughkeepsie that sees Auburn as a certain prey. These are people that, we know. They live in Auburn, or they're from Auburn, and they want to, work with government, work with non-for-profits to see some of the more innovative ideas come to fruition. So I do support arts and culture as a way to bring Auburn, to elevate Auburn where it should be, and that is to celebrate our historic sites, celebrate the culture that we have and the history of our cultural and social legacy.
Thank you. The arts, but more importantly, just economic development as a whole.
History's hometown, that's what we call ourselves. And we've got a lot of history and a lot of culture to celebrate. And the city also has a commission, Historic Sites Commission, which is funded somewhat by the city. And what is one of the things that has been cut each year is the funding for the Historic Sites Commission. It was cut in half, I think, this time, from $40,000 to $20,000. It stuck with me because they also cut the Auburn Beautification Commission. These are the things that are important. Again, it goes back to why are we cutting these things, because you're losing $1 million a year, the credit card. They're still using the credit card. The credit card's out there, they haven't cut it up, but they're still cutting back on the things that are important to making Auburn grow. And that goes to economic development too. And my favorite answer of the forum we did before, because there is a plan, and it's not economic development solely, but this comprehensive plan was put together, and in it, as parts, if it's followed or followed through on, implemented, economic development is included in here. All the elements from sidewalks to water to drawing in new business to sustaining businesses that are already there. And in this, I think there's quite a few people in here at this very moment that were on the commission that put this together and worked very hard at it, in addition to many community not public hearings, but public involvement. And one of the incumbents at the last forum called this, not the comprehensive plan, but the landscaping plan. That's what he called it. He thinks of it as somewhere where to plant trees and bushes. That's a reason, I think, that we're in the spot we're in. They dismiss the professionals that have put their heart and soul into the things that we need to make Auburn grow. They just ignore them, put them on a shelf and let them die. We need to take this book out and brush it off and let the city staff that are professionals that we pay, that know what they're doing, do their job. And then we will have businesses, we'll have businesses staying and growing. Historic Sites Commission will have the money they need to promote Harriet Tubman, Stewart, and everybody else that came here before we did. I just think it's so simple that we just do what we're supposed to do and we get it done. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you all. We're going to now finish with the closing statements with reverse order, as we said at the beginning. Change a little bit, keep it to a minute and a half. I ain't going to time. Because I promised these people to be down.
I got you.
We'll start with Ms. McCormick, who is on the Democratic and Independence line as well.
Auburn first. Is that the one? Yes. Okay. First, thank you for having us today. It's a great opportunity to talk to a lot of people that have put some heart and soul into the city. And I hope that you go out tonight and call 5 people and tell them they better vote. I'm not saying who to vote for, but just get out and vote. But you can guess who I want you to vote for. A lot of damage has been done to the city through the last few years, and more could happen, and I don't want to see that happening. Our financial resources are what will affect everything and anything we have, whether it's streets being plowed, trees being trimmed, water at Hoops Park, whether it's green or blue. Everything relies on our financial stability. We need a comptroller. We need somebody to tell us what we've got and where it is. We need to cut up the credit card. We need to stop the spending, or the bleeding, I don't like to use bleeding, or I don't like to use cancer, as one of our counselors called the minimum manning for the fire department, cancer on the city. Is that awful or what? I'd rather call it overspending. The credit card gets cut, and I think that Auburn deserves better. I know that Auburn deserves better, and I think that the only way we're going to get to that point and start to do better is if we change the faces of the people that are at city council right now. And the only way to do that is to get out and vote on November 5th and to vote with your heart for the right person, with red hair.
You had to follow that. So, again, thank you for being here, and thank you for having us. I'm just going to just reiterate, we're in a situation, a place where we need financial stability for our city. And I want to address one of the main issues that's plaguing the city, which is the failed energy contract. I want to deal with that instead of ignore it. And to me, to deal with that is tougher than laying off 10 firefighters or cutting the crossing guard budget in half, or making it difficult for the school district to maintain their SROs. So I want to deal with the real tough decision, and that's the energy contract. And that's going to, along with getting a competent comptroller, chief financial officer, to take care of our financial problems. I also want to try to encourage and model a cooperative atmosphere in City Hall and City Council. So that's my second goal. And ultimately, I love Auburn. We all love Auburn. We want to share that with the world and make Auburn a destination, maybe for a show, maybe for a lecture, maybe to move your family and to work here. So ultimately, I just want to make Auburn a destination for us and the rest of the world.
Thank you, Mr. Petty. And I should have said you are also on the Auburn First and Democratic lines. And we'll finally hear from Chris DeAngelis, who is on the Republican and Independence line. Mr. DeAngelis.
Thank you, Guy, and I want to thank everyone here for taking the time to allow us to share our views with you. As I started out in this forum this morning, it's been talked about throughout. The city right now, the financial condition of the city, really is in critical condition. It's the main reason that I jumped into this race. It's not because I believe I have all the answers. I don't believe any one person does. It's because I think that we need to assemble the right group of people who are going to start to take this problem seriously and start to make good, sound decisions that are going to head us in a positive direction. I have no doubt that we can do that. You know, some people along the way that I've talked to in the campaign, they actually believe we're too far down the path and that there's no bringing us back. This is my home. This is where I live. Does it make me special? Sure, I'm an Auburnian, but it doesn't make me any more special than any of you sitting here. We should all be concerned. I want to make sure that our financial situation is sound. Everything that the city does needs to have the financing for us to provide basic services and everything else that we do. We have to have good financial health. So we have to start making good, sound decisions. So I would just ask when you go to vote, think about who you want sitting at the table making those decisions. I think I have the experience to ask the right questions. I've been through a lot with other communities. I've been through a lot here. I think I can help move us in a positive direction. That's why I'm running, and that's why I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you, Mr. DeAngelis. If we could, give the candidates who want to serve the Senate. Quick bookkeeping notes real quick. We want to thank Owen's Orchards. If you go over there by the bar, they have provided the apple cider and donuts. And a new apple that is only grown here. It's called the Snapdragon apple. And this is also part of the Sprouts Cafe at the YMCA in Skaneateles, where there are some gluten-free organic baked goods over there. As you walk out, there is a flyer for the area at Tubman, no longer Underground Centennial Symposium, which is going to be held over at Community College the first week of November. We encourage you to look at this and see if you can attend and whatnot. One final note, if you think parking is all of a sudden an issue only of the last several mayors, Charles Evans Osborne, when he was mayor of the city of Auburn, in his first State of the State, the State of the City in 1928, said there was a problem not only with these newfangled automobiles, but those horse carriages downtown. And parking was going to be the crisis of the decade. So, enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you next week.